Welcome to our lecture online. Now let's start talking about some history of the neutron star and pulsars. When were they first discovered and when were they first theorized? Well, all the way back in the early 1930s, when they first discovered the existence of a neutron and were able to prove it in the laboratory, they began to theorize that there may be some link between the final event of supernova explosion and something that may come out of it called a neutron star. A neutron star would be a star that was a vastly collapsed core of a large star, and because of the emission of the binding energy that kept the larger nuclei together, would collapse into something with just neutrons and protons and electrons, potentially just neutrons, and therefore a big ball of nuclear material mostly made out of neutrons, and hence the concept of a neutron star. But it would be decades before we could actually discover one. And the first discovery, indirectly without even knowing what it was back in 1965. In 1965, they found an unusual source of radio radiation, and they discovered in the Crab Nebula. So the Crab Nebula is a supernova remnant, and when they had their initial radio telescopes, which was a new technology back in the 1960s, they started looking around the heavens, and they found, when they put the telescope in the direction of the Crab Nebula, they found some unusual radio radiation. But they didn't know what it was and didn't know the source of that. No connection was made yet. Then in 1967, Jocelyn Bell and Anthony Hewish together found the pulses of what now we realize is a pulsar. The period of the pulses was 1.3 seconds, and they were very strong, regular radio pulses, radio radiation pulses. So that's first when the idea came out that, wow, where is this coming from? Regular 1.3 second interval pulses. And so that's where the first thought came, is that this must be actually extraterrestrial. Of course, not everybody believed that, and soon they began to realize that this was something that may be related to a neutron star. So then in 1971, they found another 4.8 second X-ray pulses discovered in Centaurus. So there, instead of finding radio radiation at regular interval of pulses, they found X-ray pulses, duration 4.8 seconds in between. Then back in 1974, they found the first binary pulsar. Two neutron stars, one being a pulsar. So here they had one pulsar where they could detect the pulses, and the other was the neutron star. They could not see the pulses, and the two were circling each other. A binary neutron star system when one of them was actually a pulsar where we could see the pulses. So now we could calculate the motion of the one relative to the other, and we can estimate their masses, which were measured to be somewhere between 1 and 2 solar masses. Then in 1982, they found the first millisecond pulsar. The millisecond pulsar meant that the time between pulses was measured in terms of milliseconds, less than 2 milliseconds between pulses. In other words, 640 times per second did they see a pulse. That is among the highest limit of any pulsar that we found to date. And so that means that this neutron star, hence the pulsar, is rotating on its axis 642 times per second. So this is the designation. PSR stands for the pulsar, and then this is the location of the pulsar. And so then in 2003, we found the first double pulsar, so a binary pulsar system where we could see pulses of both, and they're rotating about one another. And then in 2010, we found the largest mass pulsar to date yet. So back in 2010, the largest pulsar that we found to date was 1.97 times the mass of the sun, with a very small 0.04 probability error or uncertainty in the measurement. And so here we can see that here the ranges had been far lower in the past, around 1.4 times the mass of the sun. So they saw that here we had masses that were well beyond the Chandrasekhar limit, which of course solidified the concept that this had to be a neutron star, something very small rotating really fast, because there's no way that a white dwarf could be this big. And so there we verified that yes, we can have pulsars and neutron stars of that enormous size. And it was starting to bounce up against the theoretical limit of what we thought the size of a neutron star could be. Then in 2017, a tremendous event, LIGO, that's the experimentation equipment that's able to detect gravity waves, indeed found and detected gravity waves associated with the collision of two neutron stars. So because of the magnitude of the gravity waves, we're able to connect it to the masses associated with two neutron stars in a collision. Then in 2018, we found a gamma ray burst, at least it was seen in 2015, but by 2018 they had made the relationship between the collision of two neutron stars and the emission of a gamma ray burst, as we call it, the GRB. And finally in 2019, they started using the merger, the collision of two neutron stars, to come up with a new estimate of the Hubble constant. And remarkably, it was relatively close to the numbers that we've been getting from Cepheid variables and type 1a supernovas, and also the red giant methodologies of 70.3 plus or minus about 5 kilometers per second per megaparsec. Again, another method to give us an accurate estimate of the Hubble constant, at least one more source that proved that we're on track to getting some very reasonable and accurate measurements of the Hubble constant. So we have seen quite some development in the knowledge and the understanding and the observations of neutron stars and pulsars. Pulsars, of course, are the easiest ones to measure, but neutron stars, using the gravitational influence around with binary systems, were able to come up with the mass estimates, the rotational estimates, and so forth of the various neutron stars and pulsars. So since the 1960s, in that advent of radio telescopes, we've come a long ways in understanding pulsars and neutron stars.
So it was actually theorized first?
Decades before the first discovery.
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years. It's quite interesting that only a couple years after they discovered a neutron, they began to theorize that you could actually have a ball of nuclear material, mostly made out of neutrons.
Pretty good.
And it turns out to be correct. That's the main thing. Is a lot of theories are thrown out all over the place and all the time.
Especially today.
Yeah, especially today. But the fact that they were actually on track and reasonably close to what ended up being found, quite amazing.